Hi there guys, my name's Alan. I'm here at Shady Pine Saloon today in Sydney. This is a very good friend of mine, Fred, joining me from Melbourne, and we're here to talk to you about bourbon for the fine drinks movement.
Bourbon's a pretty big spirit to cover, mate, so how about we break it down into some simple parts. First, I think we need to talk about the definition of bourbon. Today's story of bourbon really starts on May the 4th, 1964, when the United States government decided they'd make bourbon the official national spirit.
That sounds like a pretty smart move if you ask me.
Yeah, I think it was a pretty good call because what they did was they not only safeguarded the spirit and that style, but they created a lot of jobs in the meantime, all the way down the line from the farmer to the distiller and every step of the way.
Perfect. So what are we going to start looking at first then?
The first rule or regulation is that all bourbon must be made from a recipe, or mash bill as it's generally called, that contains a minimum of 51% corn.
Next up, bourbon must be aged in brand new charred oak barrels.
Wait, is that any kind of oak?
It's mainly American oak, but it can be any kind as long as it is oak.
Bourbon is an American thing, so it must be made in the United States. While still today about 95% of all bourbon is made in Kentucky, it can actually be made anywhere in America.
It is distilled to a maximum of 80% ABV or 160 proof.
And the barrel entry proof, so the strength of the spirit going into the barrel, cannot be more than 62.5% ABV, or in the United States, 125 proof.
Should we go into a little bit and explain what proof actually is?
Good idea. Proof is basically the US measurement for alcohol. It's exactly double the ABV, or alcohol by volume, which is generally what we call it in Australia.
To be a bourbon, you cannot add anything to the spirit after it's been aged. So no flavouring or caramel colouring or any additives. In fact, the only thing you can add is water for bottling.
And while we're on the subject of bottling, bourbon has to be bottled at no less than 80 proof or 40% ABV, in the US at least. Otherwise, it's called diluted.
Another couple of points are, to be a straight bourbon, you must be aged for a minimum of 2 years, and any less than 4, then your age statement must be on the label.
And maybe the last thing, if you do have an age statement on the bottle, this must be the age of the youngest whiskey in the bottle.
So we've got the facts of what legally makes up a bourbon, but now we need to explain what they all mean when bourbon is produced.
Cool.